This is a review of the RWBY Red trailer. This is not to be confused with my analysis content, which is in a separate video. If you haven't seen the RWBY Red trailer, go do that. It's on the Rooster Teeth website and it's free. As always, please support the official release of the series. Have you done that? Good. Then let's move on to the meat of this content. I'd like to go back and reevaluate my perspective on RWBY, a series in production by Rooster Teeth. That's why, on top of analysis videos for the series, I will also be doing retrospective reviews like this one. The retrospective will be an honest, heartfelt look at RWBY from beginning to end. This won't be like my analysis content. Instead, this is largely based on personal opinion and very little else. Prior to RWBY, the only thing I cared about from Rooster Teeth was Red vs. Blue, a Halo-related series. I was only a small fan. Beyond the nostalgia of the early seasons, I didn't care for Red vs. Blue later on, and I still don't. It's filled its time in my life for what it was, and I'm more than happy with that. I still watch the old seasons on occasion. Rooster Teeth really wasn't on my radar again until the RWBY Red trailer, and the announcement for RWBY as a series. Everyone I knew kept talking about it, and I couldn't avoid the trailer. It was plastered everywhere on social media and bandied about at our favorite bar. At first, I just didn't see the spectacle in it. The musical backdrop was interesting, and I enjoyed that more than the visuals in front of me. RWBY was a cute-looking character, sure, and yeah, she had a great kick-butt scythe. She was even slicing monsters left and right. Some of her attacks looked very similar to job abilities found in Final Fantasy games. Since I'm a huge fan of Final Fantasy XI and enjoy the Dark Knight job, the concept of a scythe-wielding badass really appeals to me. Knowing the RWBY series creator, Monty Oum, was a Final Fantasy fan as well, is what originally drew my interest to the trailer. RWBY didn't fit the mold that I expected, but I knew the series was influenced heavily by his own passions for fandom, and that knowledge is what had me strapping in for the wild ride that the RWBY series was promised to be. I was skeptical, but I was also hopeful. In my analysis video, I stated that the RWBY Red trailer does strictly what it sets out to do. I stand by that. It doesn't fail in its goals, not even slightly. It's just not perfect either. Then again, nothing really is, so let's dig into this thing. As I see it, all of the trailers had three basic goals to accomplish. Firstly, to showcase the four main girls, Ruby Rose, Weiss Schnee, Blake Belladonna, and Yang Xiao Long, respectively. The second goal was to teach the viewer how to enjoy combat in the series. The final goal was to give viewers a taste of the world through the eyes of the characters. The RWBY Red trailer introduces us to the first of these girls, Ruby Rose, a young huntress in training. RWBY's trailer is all about sentimentality, although you might not realize that detail on the first watch, and it won't become clear until after you've seen at least Volume 1 of the series. It is an important note. However, its core themes carries on even now into Volume 8. I suspect it will carry Ruby Rose and her personal story all the way to the end of the series. The RWBY Red trailer is bare bones. It wasn't cutting edge, and it didn't try to be. With as low budget as RWBY was at the time, it couldn't pretend to be more than it was. It just didn't have the budget. Instead of the top-of-the-line animation that fans usually receive with animated works, we got animation that was focused more upon careful choreography and subtle, distinctive movements that define each character. Instead of soundtracks played by full orchestras, music was crafted to resonate with the characters directly. These two things combined is what ultimately made the early volumes of RWBY entertaining to watch. This makes complete sense, because Monty Oum, the creator of RWBY, had several ethos in his life that he spoke about often as an animator. You've likely heard of these before. One of them is the rule of cool, which I will speak of more at a later time. Another ethos he has was that to be a good animator, you needed to be good at watching how people lived their lives. This ethos matters for the trailer and his ideas of how characters should be brought to life in general in regard to the show. Small expressions and actions are the key foundations to characterization. Even in the trailer, we see this in spades. I have a few examples for you. Notice RWBY's small smirk when she's face to face with the Beowulf. It almost breaks the fourth wall. It almost seems like she's asking us to watch her fight these things. That little smirk doesn't last long, but it says it all. She's a little impish, but in this moment she's self-assured and confident. Now, compare that moment to the way she walks around in the forest prior to the fight. Her almost lackadaisical steps across the snow-covered land are gentle. They seem light, as if she's trying not to leave deep tracks. The sway of her movements imply that she's enjoying herself out in these wilds. She likes it here. She likes fighting these Grimm, and it brings her some level of personal satisfaction to be out here. All of this certainly backed up by the musical composition found in the trailer. As an anime fan, I can easily appreciate when carefully utilized musical talents are pushed to the extreme. Red Like Roses manages to pull that off. The song begins slowly with a soft melancholy and gentle ambiance as RWBY stands over her mother's grave. Then, it sets a strong tone that carries through the rest of the piece. Kicking up the beat for RWBY's fight with the pack of Beowulfs keeps the fight interesting when the combat alone couldn't keep me entirely entertained. As for the fight scene itself, the choreography is wonderful. Allow me to highlight why. You can anticipate the entire battle, and you can follow along with the flow of the fight. The animation leading up to the showdown has given you everything you need to enjoy this battle. You can feel each jump and flip, and the weight of RWBY as a person. Since she has been walking light on her feet before, it matches the bunny hops that eventually turn into the flips and rolls during combat. The battle here is slower and more precise than we usually see, but since she's not with a team and this is only a trailer, that makes sense. The trailer is almost training us, the viewers, how to experience combat in the series. It's teaching us how to enjoy these fights. And most of us probably never even noticed that it was doing it. How is the trailer training us to do this? Well, this battle keeps the training wheels on for the viewer. RWBY is naturally fast, but she's slower in this fight, and she does that on purpose. Remember when I said she almost breaks the fourth wall? Well, this would be why I pointed that out. She's slower to pull the trigger and fire rounds in her trailer than you'd usually see in the series. She's more mindful of the area around her. When she flips atop a Beowulf and takes the thing's head off, and then catches some air, we can see that this was carefully planned. She did that in order to see her surroundings and the Grimm she's fighting. This is what I mean by great choreography. If we're not following exactly what RWBY's doing and why, we're only a single pace or two behind her thoughts and actions. Before the final burst that ends the battle, the music slows and she seems to look at the viewers again, though arguably it's the wolves off-screen that she's looking at. Still, it's almost like she's saying, "This is what I can really do. Just watch." Then, she takes her time to load her weapon and puts a serious look on her face. When she's about to go all out, so to speak, the music ramps up one final time. Then, only after one last pause, she lets loose. After the fight, bullets fall through the air and RWBY looks self-assured once more. A job well done. When the scene fades to black, viewers are left with two things. The first is a basic concept of physics within the RWBY series. The shattered moon overhead, the snow upon the ground, character movements, and other small details have opened us up to this wonderful and vast new world. The second concept it leaves us with is a metric upon which all other characters can now be evaluated. Now that we've seen RWBY fight in a way that almost feels like a game tutorial, we're more prepared for the later trailers. The same is true for the songs. We know the lyrics here probably mean something, and we are prepared to hear the next one and begin putting the puzzle pieces together. Fans did this in spades. Even after the first trailer, theory crafting was flooding the internet. If you were in the fandom during the earliest days, you have the luxury of really remembering this. As the other three trailers came out, a dedicated fan base was already forming. By the time Volume 1 happened, that fan base was already foaming at the mouth, waiting for more content. Here are some final thoughts. The trailer is everything it needed to be. A tutorial, an introduction, and a taste of the world. Thanks to the trailer, we have all three. On its own, this trailer just isn't that remarkable. What makes it stand out is the hindsight you gain after digging into the series properly. I speak of this in my analysis, but the RWBY series is covered in foreshadowing. Every trailer is layered in symbolism that you can extrapolate into deeper meanings for the early volumes. In the RWBY series, hindsight really is 2020. It's important to go back and rewatch the series, trailers included. The trailer is a touchstone. It's what started everything. You could say it's the first pebble in a puddle, and one that would become an ocean of content much later. It's easy to forget that this trailer is really what began the fandom. It may have been the first real taste of the series that fans received en masse, but it is no lesser than its counterparts. In fact, I'd argue that historically speaking, it's the most important one. This is the first step in a very long journey. So, this is where I leave this trailer and this video. I'll continue watching it fondly every now and then, and I'll continue looking back on it, and I'll look ahead to the minutiae of details buried under its surface. Maybe now you will too. In the next video, I'm going to cover the trailer that showcases Wei Schnee and her battle of mental fortitude. I'll see you there. Do you want more content until then? Did you know that Christian and I have a Twitch account? We stream games every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Saturday. Sometimes I stream solo on off days. We also have a Twitter account and a blog. There are links in the description. Please check them out and don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you to all of our patrons for supporting our content. If you'd like to become a patron member yourself, the link is in the description. This is Kern, and you've been watching The Demented Ferrets, where stupidity is at its finest and level grinds are par for the course. I'll catch you in the next video. See you there.